So hello, welcome back to a new video where we are going to talk about the cooling project I've been working on. I'm kind of frustrated about it, I will explain to you why. But there is good news. The good news is that it's working. Quick side note, I might be watching on the screen and not in the camera because I'm not in my normal YouTube setup where I have a video teleprompter and I will always look into the camera, well, most of the time. But let's continue. So if I'm looking like this, that's why I'm now looking at my monitor. So let's continue. I've made two versions of it. One is passive cooling with a fan, but anyway, passive cooling, and the other one is active cooling, so using a cooling element. We'll also show that a little bit, although I think we are mostly going to talk about the first version, because I think it's good enough. So let me show you. Here it is. And let's use the nice feature which is built into this camera called product mode, and it should then automatically focus on this. Is it focused? Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, you should always show it here. Sorry, I'm still kind of learning. But you can see the product focus is there. I've put a button on the remote so I can press it. So this is the one that we made. It's 3D printed and it's a really simple design. You see in the bottom, let me explain it a little bit. There's a gap between where the fan goes so that the air is being sucked out of the hole, out of the fan, like this. And it's sucked in the air on the side over here. So the idea is that it creates an airflow behind the camera. So that's the whole idea, right? So this is the back plate of the camera and it will suck the air through the holes into this and out. So that's the whole idea. It's a very simple idea, right? So let me show you how it works. Basically, I'm using a separate fan at the moment to show you what you need to do is, the way that I did it at least, is I put this soft part of Velcro here. So this becomes a tiny bit bigger. I did that, so if you push it in, so let me show you, because that's the whole installation, is basically pushing it in. You push it in, and it's there. But now, because of using this Velcro, there's no physical contact between the body, right? So this is going to touch the body and the fan, which reduces the fan noise. So there is a reason for this, right? Also make sure that you put a sticker on the outside, although on my version I've removed the sticker so it looks nice and black. I will show you. But this is that the air goes that way, because we want to suck it out and not blow it in. It will work better. Now you see a small hole there for the wire, and that's about it. And a small hole over here so that you can put the wires in correctly. So how does it look on a real version? I got it here. And again, I'm assuming that people can install this themselves. You can see this looks a little bit nicer. It's a black fan instead of a white fan. Not really important. But it has a black fan. And you can see another thing. You see that I've put the same Velcro stuff here. So the soft part of the Velcro. Why? Again, I made it a tiny bit smaller so that it can quite nicely sit in there. And you've already seen the other video. If you don't have seen the other video where I was showing you how to click it in and click it out. It just makes it a little bit more sticky, which I think is a good thing. It still has the effect that if you pull it by mistake or by design, opening like this, watch the other video, it will easily come off and don't damage your camera. Of course, the wire goes in the bottom. You see, made a hole there, and I just put some tape in there to put the whole thing in there. I guess you could glue it down, although that might also again give you a little bit more contact, which is something that you might not want. So now put it back on eye contact, which is of eye focus, which is nice. So now it should not focus on this one, which it doesn't. And press the button, and now it does. It works very well. Anyway, so the one that I got, and I'll also put in the description, is one that Amazon has sold quite a lot. So let me put it back on that focus again. And it should, oh yeah, it just starts over here, which is interesting. But you can see it has three stands of one low, medium and high. All my testing showed that low is already more than enough. Now, you might be in a 30 degrees environment and not in a 25 degrees environment, but it should be enough. Then the rest of the thing is basically a USB connection. So what I'm going to do now is basically put this in the back of the camera. So you will see a little bit of shaking. Hook this one up in my monitor, and we should be fine. So here we go. And now on the other side, you should not hear me. Well, you will hear me a bit. It's a massively complex installation. The most difficult part is in old USB to make sure that you plug it in correctly. You might hear it actually click. I know this sounds weird, but so let's see if you can hear it click. So pressing it in, and there you heard it click. Let me also remove it. I'm wondering if you can hear that. And now turning it on low. And now we're up and running. So not sure if you heard the audio, but we should be up and running. Yeah, we are running with the fan. I will be quiet. I don't think you can hear it. Actually, if you hear a fan, it's most likely my AC and not the camera fan. So, yeah, that's about it. But let's talk a little bit about the results that you can expect with this one. And then I'll talk a little bit about the new version I'm making, which is a mixed success. I think this is actually the most interesting model. So, like I said, you see how easy it is to create. These fans are being sold worldwide at Amazon for $10 or 14 euros. I'm not sure which one I got at the moment. The prices vary a little bit. And it is totally complete. You don't have to build anything. You basically just have to 3D print the model, push it in, and you're done. Maybe you want to put some tape on there. Maybe you want to put some glue in there. That's all up to you. But that's it. And I will probably publish the model first to a few people who are in warmer conditions, and then decide to put it on one of the websites. So yeah, so what are the results? The results are quite good with one exception. So the exception is, let's talk about that first. It does not help almost at all. Maybe it's like 10% or 20% better if you go outside and put your camera in direct sunlight. And the reason for this is that I think, of course, direct sunlight, everything gets very hot, but also different parts of the camera get hot. So I'm pretty convinced that even outside, if you put it in the shadow or you put something on top of the camera, like an umbrella or something, which to me makes perfect sense. Why would you behind the camera or leave it there for a long time in the direct sunlight? Doesn't make any sense to me, but your mileage may vary. It will not solve that, but if you put it in the shadow or inside, it works perfectly. So what I mean with it means works perfectly. Normally for me, even at 1080p, it could overheat the ZV-E1, depending on frame rate and stuff. But in 4K, it will overheat if you put it in 50p, for example, which is the easiest one to test. So 50p, 60p, 4K, it will normally only last about 48 minutes. Sorry, 38 to 41 minutes for me, at least, in 10-bit. What you do if you install this, it will go unlimited. I have not found a way to overheat it with the fan on, even on the low mode, which it is now. So there's a lot of headroom there because you also have the high mode, but it should be totally fine. So I've tested it in the webcasting mode. I've tested it in the external HDMI mode. I've tested it internal recording 4K 60, 10-bit, blah, blah, and let it go for hours and hours. It works. So again, not even the active version, which I'm also going to show, but this, yeah, let's call it fan-only version, works perfectly. And it's cheap to make, easy to do. So who is it for? I think a product like this is definitely for people who are using it in a YouTube setup as an extra feature, or if you're doing Zoom meetings or you're doing Skype meetings and you want to go more than 1.5 hours. I think this is a very safe bet because you just plug it into the back of your monitor. 9 out of 10 monitors these days have USB power output. You put it in there, the fan is going, the fan is using maybe half a watt, so that's basically nothing, and it just does its thing and you don't hear it, and yeah, fine. Turn the monitor off, it's off again, right? So I think even if you leave it on by mistake, not a big deal, not a deal at all. And it will give you just way more headroom not to see the overheating symbol. So that's the good news. So let's talk about the high-tech version, which I also will show you. So this is the high-tech version. It should be in this product mode, but in the product mode I have mixed feelings about it. It works, but sometimes still has to snap in. You can see this is kind of the same design, but it's a little bit thicker, which is about 3 or 4 millimeters. So you can see there's a switch over there. There is now I've taped it up because I don't want to use glue yet, but there's the cooling plate, and you can see that there's a little bit of electronics there and a USB-C over there. For the rest it's the same, but it works totally different. Now, if you know how these electronic coolers work, they have a hot side and they have a cold side. So of course the cold side will be the one that touching your camera. And this one also works, by the way. Also, I have not found a limitation so far, except in direct sunlight, where the effect was also extremely limited, right? So this is the cold side, but the other side gets quite hot. That's why the fan is there. So the fan is not basically there anymore to cool or to create airflow, which is, if we are still doing a bit, because from the side, my guess is there will still be air coming out. But his main job is to cool down the cooling element. So as a result, this uses way more power. So this will probably use, let's say, a 5000, something like this. Like a 5000 milliamps. It might go for maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. So it uses quite a lot of battery. In fact, I would not be surprised if it uses more battery than your camera does. I'm just claiming something without checking, but I would not be surprised. So I'm not a big fan of this design. I don't think there's a valid use case for it. And it's also more complex to make, because you have to get, and I bought 4 of them. You have to buy one of these fans, take it apart, which is not really that difficult. The way that I designed it, you should be able to install the whole thing in 2 minutes. So take it apart will take you maybe 2 or 3 minutes. They're really tiny screws. You have to take the little screws out, and then I designed it that you can click it in basically, and then with some super glue, or you can probably glue this control part, and you can glue this backplate, and you're done. And again, then you can click it onto your camera again. But the power use, the fact if you leave it on, that is an active cooler, so it becomes hot in a way, because it needs to be cold and hot at the same time, as I explained. It's more complex. I don't think it adds anything extra, because in the sunny situation, so direct sunlight, it will overheat all 3 of them. So no fan, just a fan and a cooling element. All 3 of them will overheat. I am not sure if there's any gain with this one compared to just the fan version. So, and then there's a lot of extra complexity, because as you see, the 40mm fans are really easy to order at Amazon, and yeah, you just click it in and you're done. So, yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about. I think it's what's going to happen next is that Smolrik is also doing research on this, and I'm talking to them. Probably they won't use this design, I'm just saying. But they are also trying both situations out, and they might turn this into a product. So that's kind of interesting. If they make it out of aluminium, it will probably be about 30 grams, 35 grams. So this is about 10 grams. And PLA, which is this, is about a third of the weight, well, 2.2, less weight than aluminium. So that means that if they make this out of aluminium, it will probably be about 30 grams. The good news there is that within this 30 grams, there's of course metal. So it will actually work better, because it will transfer heat from the body into this box, is my guess. And they might also put some extra cooling fans over here or over there, I don't know. Yeah, that might be, in fact, make this passive version, that's called a fan passive version, even better. So yeah, that's are the next step. I'm going to test it a bit more. For me, I've already decided that the passive version is going to be on my camera if I'm not doing it anything else, because it's such an easy addition, doesn't cost me anything to leave on, and it can't hurt the camera because I don't think the other one will hurt the camera. But if you forget it and you leave it on for 4 days, then theoretically something could go wrong. I think this little fan version, we all had fans before. The worst thing can happen when you do a fan is that it breaks down. And then you buy, theoretically, once in a blue moon, if it happens, let's say years later, you buy a new one for $10, right? And you're done again. So I think this is a very good solution. And yeah, I'm looking forward for others to test it and see what they think. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.